Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to my channel where our motto is let's talk about it. Well, remember, my name is a channel dedicated to the past and present cases of the missing and exploited of forgotten communities. I am your host, Mrs. Q. So let's begin. Not a subscriber yet? Please take the time now to subscribe to my channel. And everyone, please, please, please like this video and comment, good or bad, so we could talk about it. Get in the comments. If you would like to support my channel, please cash at me at $RMN channel. Or if there are any stories or anything you'd like me to cover, please email me at rememmyname@gmail.com. That's REMEM, my name at gmail.com. Remember, all videos are protected under copyright and fair use for educational purposes only. Now, let's begin. Today's episode of Remember My Name, we will be exploring the horrendous and the sad case of Maurice Isaiah Torres. Little Maurice Isaiah Torres was born on July 3rd, 2008, and he sadly passed away March 30th, 2015 at roughly 12:33 a.m. This particular case took place in Bella Vista, Arkansas. As with any cases of this magnitude or any cases that happen like this, there's always a backstory. As we all know, we hear it on the news all the time. We hear the sick and scary backstories, and it scares us that children and our needy, like our elderly, are even subject to the abuses that they are subject to in these type of stories. The sick and scary backstory that preceded little Isaiah's death is his parents. Little Isaiah had a mother who turned her head and looked away as dad abused him for years. And we also have a dad, Maurice Torres, who should have never, ever been out on the streets to have any children at all. If you don't believe me, let's begin.
Mauricio and Kathy moved to Bella Vista, Arkansas, and had 3 children. Each had children of their own. Mauricio was previously married to another woman, Linda. They married in California and had 2 kids, Erica and Torres. Kathy had 3 boys and 1 girl before meeting Mauricio. They're Nicholas, Quentin, Spencer, and Bailey. After they got married, they had 1 boy and 1 girl. They lived in Jonesboro, Arkansas, before moving to Bella Vista. I sat down with Mauricio's oldest children, Erica and Maurice, who goes by Torres, about their tormented life living under their father's care.
You're just hoping that you make it through the night and that everything's gonna be okay.
Erica is Torres's older sister.
There was times like my brother would sneak into my room and come sleep in there with me because he was afraid.
When you were young, did you realize what he was doing was wrong, or did you think that's how everybody grew up?
That's how everybody grew up, you know?
The siblings were punished for everything.
Erica left a little bit of ketchup, remember that? A little ketchup on your plate. And yeah, we got punished for little stuff like that.
They both agree the worst form of punishment came when they were both forced to fight one another until they bled.
When this would happen, I'd tell my brother, I'd tell him, like, I'm sorry. And just... I tell him I'm sorry, and like I don't want to hurt you. I tell him please just scream louder so it doesn't happen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, do what you gotta do.
You weren't there when I interviewed Torres the first time, but he told me that you were his protector. He told me that you handled a lot of the bad to protect him.
I'm the oldest. I'm supposed to protect my younger brothers and sisters, you know? I felt like I let them down. But that was really hard, and my brother told me that, I did it, and that I did my best to protect them,
Both siblings even protected one another from one dark secret. They were both raped by Mauricio on a regular basis.
We didn't want the other one to be hurt. My brother called me one day, and he asked me, and he's crying on the phone. He goes, look, I'm old enough now. You know, please tell me the truth. Did the things that happened to Isaiah, did he ever hurt you? That's when I told my brother. My brother never knew it until all this happened.
Erica and Torres lost contact with their biological dad after Mauricio met and married Kathy.
The last we heard was, you know, that they got the parental rights taken away, and I thought, you know, good, you know, it's done, like that was our, you know, justice, you know? And then to hear that here he is.
With 3 more kids.
Yeah, and I was scared. I was afraid to know, like, what happened to them. My brother called me on the phone, I was shaking.
Torres had called Erica and told her Mauricio was charged with raping and murdering Isaiah Torres.
As you just heard from his older children, their father had been molesting, hurting, abusing children for a very, very long time. Just the mere fact that he was even able to be allowed to be able to hurt young Isaiah just mind boggled me. He should have been put away a long time ago. This monster should have never, ever, ever been left out on the streets to be able to hurt any children. And after numerous complaints and validations on how and what he did to his kids, somehow what happened to this angel, it was just no coming back from. On March 29th, 2015, Kathy Torres, little Isaiah's mother, placed the call to 911, stating that her son had stopped breathing. 6-year-old little Isaiah, when the paramedics got there, it was obvious it was a lot went on to him not breathing. Little Isaiah was found on the living room floor by the paramedics, unresponsive, not breathing. The doctors and the paramedics saw that he had cuts and bruises that were visible all over his little body. They asked him what happened to him. Both, as most abusers do, both stated they didn't know what happened to him. And after getting Isaiah to the hospital, he never regained consciousness. This little angel has shown signs of blunt force trauma, according to the doctor, and he ended up passing away. After interrogation, fingerprinting completely began. And as always in cases like this, they both admitted Isaiah had been hurt in their care. The father was a little bit culpable than the mother, but it was just obvious that this child had just had a horrendous life. Like there was no love that was left in this world for him. And the sad thing about it is that he had a mother. He had a mother who never took the time to protect him because she was scared herself. However, most parents, or especially mothers, they're willing to give their own life for exchange for their own, but not in the case of Kathy Torres.
Know how a 6-year-old boy from Bella Vista died after police say they arrested his parents on murder and rape charges. Details contained in the story could be a little graphic for some viewers. 5 News reporter Dylan Thomas has more after speaking with the Benton County prosecutor. Dylan.
Darren, according to a probable cause affidavit released earlier today by the Benton County prosecutor Nathan Smith, 6-year-old Maurice Isaiah Torres, who went by Isaiah, died of internal injuries caused by rape and suffered other repeated abusive injuries at the hands of his parents.
According to these documents, Bella Vista detectives interviewed Kathy and Mauricio Torres about Isaiah's death separately. They also interviewed Isaiah's sisters. All the family members told police they had gone on an overnight camping trip to Hollister, Missouri, and came back Sunday night, March 29th. The documents state Kathy found Isaiah unresponsive shortly after that and called 911. The details of what happened before that vary in Kathy and Mauricio's interviews with police, but Isaiah's sisters told investigators he had a stomachache and had to be carried into the house when they got back from their trip. He also had trouble standing in the shower and was not really awake when Kathy put him to bed. According to the documents, police searched the Torres home on Monday, March 30th. Inside, they found blood in the master bedroom where Isaiah had been put to bed. They also found a fire poker tool on the floor and a stethoscope. A few days later, the documents state police also searched the Torres camper. where they also found blood. According to these documents, Kathy eventually told detectives that she had seen Mauricio hit Isaiah, and sometimes the child would bleed as a result. She also said that she knew what happened to Isaiah was her fault because she didn't stop Mauricio. In another interview, she told detectives she was scared of her husband. The documents state Isaiah had bruises and lacerations all over his body and showed signs of blunt force trauma. Now, the documents also state that when Mauricio Torres got home from work and Isaiah's sisters had told on him, Torres would then take all the children into the bedroom. After disciplining them, he would send the girls out so that he could spank Isaiah. Darren.
Wow.
After a rigorous interrogation, the truth slowly came out from both sides, as I told you before. What ultimately ended up causing both parents to be charged in the death of Isaiah. When you look at cases like this, get in the comments and give me your thoughts. Do you think the mother was more culpable than the father? Do you think the father scared the mother to the point that there's a point where of no return, where sometimes as a parent you don't want to go further? I've had family members who were abused, and many friends, and you see these cases of abuse, and it's just hard for anyone, especially like me, who've seen it on all spectrums of abuse, how a mother can sit back and allow a father to do the sad and the despicable things that you did to Isaiah. This child was battered and bruised, and he had bruises in different shades of healing.
And a monster and all that, and especially, but I'm about to make you a hero. This Bella Vista and all that, because he's going to solve this case for you.
He admits Isaiah was sodomized during a family camping trip. Mauricio also admits it was not the first time.
When you said that you did it once before, with the stick.
I did that one before. I told you.
How long before this last Sunday was that?
A while. It was. Normally I was spanking.
A forensic pathologist says Isaiah died when his rectum was torn, and chronic abuse for years contributed to his death. Mauricio says Kathy is equally guilty.
The reason why she's not saying anything, because she doesn't want to implement herself, does that make sense? Because she knows she's equally guilty.
Captain Tim Cook is a leading investigator.
The truth is what we need, and the truth is what...
He's going to give me the needle, but...
the truth is what everybody else needed to hear.
And we spoke with...
What was known, and he was right in one thing, she was just as culpable as he was in the death of little Isaiah. She just sat there and just allowed a man, and just because he was his father, it doesn't mean it. How people are able to sit back and dissect and able to watch someone get abused and hurt, it has to be something wrong with you. Now, I do not know Kathy's background or where she came from, but I do know that you got to be a certain type of monster to allow a child to be hurt and beat the way little Isaiah was. However, the mother, Kathy Torres, did accept her punishment. She took a plea deal because the prosecutor was going after the death penalty, and more than likely they were going to get it. But instead, she takes a plea deal and is able to get life without any parole, which is kind of crazy to me because little Isaiah did not have that option. He didn't have the option of doing something else so he can live, but being a coward again, she didn't want to face the same judgment as little Isaiah. So she went ahead and took her guilty plea deal, and she was again convicted of serving. Well, she pled to serving life without the possibility of parole.
Kathy Torres accepted a plea deal with the state and the 2015 death of her son Isaiah. 5 News reporter Catherine Gilker was in the courtroom today. She joins us live in Benton County with details. Catherine.
Kathy Torres will spend the rest of her life in prison without the possibility of parole. Torres was charged with capital murder, and prosecutors were seeking the death penalty. Benton County Prosecutor Nathan Smith says he's pleased to bring this horrific case to a close. Smith says he hopes the community will remember Isaiah's brothers and sisters because they're survivors of horrific abuse and stood up for their brother when they testified in court.
Victims' surviving siblings, Isaiah's brothers and sisters, are all relieved to have it behind them. And I think it's important for Kathy Torres to have admitted her role in it and to receive the punishment of the rest of her natural life in prison.
Coming up on your 5 News at 6, the message Kathy Torres wants people to know.
It was great that she went ahead and accepted her punishment. I do agree with the prosecutor when it comes to that. However, it doesn't change. It doesn't bring little Isaiah back. And what happened with his father would totally blow your mind. We're on the 3rd case of Mauricio Torres going to court. Justice has taken a long time with a lot of twists and turns and problems with this case. We're getting him convicted and getting the actual conviction to stand. It has been a challenge to the prosecutors. We're hoping, as you follow this case, because they are waiting on the 3rd case to start, we're hoping that little Isaiah will get some justice when it comes to his father. This is how trial 1 went.
Good evening. An unexpected ruling by the Arkansas Supreme Court. Today, justices ordered a new trial for a man on death row convicted of killing his 6-year-old son.
We know that Mauricio Torres was arrested in April 2015 on capital murder, rape, and battery charges. Investigators say that he sexually assaulted his son while the family was camping in Missouri. The next day, the child died at an Arkansas hospital. In November 2016, a jury convicted Torres. It took them less than 3 hours to sentence him to death by lethal injection.
Because Mauricio Torres was on death row, he was guaranteed an appeal, which is why the court issued an opinion on his conviction.
And today I spoke with a legal expert to break down what this means and if it could have been avoided.
None of us have an enviable job of covering this again. Yeah. I'm sort of shocked that on a human level that we're back here.
Because prosecutors say Mauricio Torres raped his 6-year-old son Isaiah in Missouri, but Isaiah died in Arkansas, the state Supreme Court decided that in Benton County, they could not use rape as a justification for the capital murder conviction. It was the state Supreme Court's opinion that all elements of a crime have to be committed in Arkansas in order to prosecute in the state. Legal expert Brian Galini says a jury convicted him on 2 theories of rape and chronic child abuse.
The jury, when they look at those 2 theories, they don't actually have to agree on which theory leads to guilt. Instead, they just have to agree that the defendant's guilty.
Galini says it could have benefited Arkansas prosecutors to reveal which theory the jury relied on to convict Torres, which he says could have avoided the conviction being overturned.
The same evidence that exists can be used to retry him again. And I would bet a mortgage payment we'll be back with a guilty verdict.
The prosecuting attorney did say that if it gets to trial again, they will pursue the death penalty. Meanwhile, Torres is still serving 20 years in prison on a battery conviction.
The prosecution got their case together and they took him back to court and they were going after the death penalty again. Yes, the death penalty and his conviction got overturned in the first trial, but they were on track on the second trial to get him convicted with the death penalty again. But the surprise ending to this could not have been predicted. It just ended, the trial ended in chaos.
We are breaking into regular programming right now because the judge in a local murder trial has granted a mistrial. Mauricio Torres was already on trial for the 2nd time for the death of his 6-year-old son, Isaiah. Now, earlier today, Quentin Martins, the stepson of Torres, tried to attack him. 4229's Emma Clayburgh was there in court during the testimony. She said Martin jumped out of the witness box and ran 15 to 20 feet toward Mauricio and his attorney. They flipped the table over to stop Martin. And now in the past, Martin did testify that he was sexually abused by Torres. The defense attorney told the judge that he's never seen anything like this in front of a jury before and cannot be unseen. The prosecution asked for the judge to reconsider. A hearing has been set for March 19th, and we know the jury convicted Torres of capital murder and first-degree battery on Wednesday. This follows about a week of testimony about the 2015 death of Isaiah. Now, this was not the first time a jury found Torres guilty. He was convicted and sentenced to death in 2016, but the Arkansas Supreme Court overturned his conviction in 2019. Again, 4229's Emma Claybrook would join us at 5 and 6 live outside the courtroom with a full report of all these details. Thanks for listening.
So right now, Mauricio is working on his third trial. I'm praying, and I'm sure just like little Isaiah's family is praying, that they get the conviction that they're looking for, and he is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and they are going for the death penalty again. Thank you for listening to this case regarding little Isaiah Torres. This was a case that moved me. It was shocking to see what this child went through in his short lifespan on earth. But after going over the case, I hope it makes you look around you and speak up when you see injustices going on. Speak up when you see children being treated unjustly. Speak up when you see our elderly being abused. Speak up and never let something like this happen in your family. Thank you for listening to the story of Isaiah Torres. Say his name. Remember his name. Isaiah Torres. Isaiah Torres, little one, you were here. Unknown to you, you were loved. An angel, you mattered. Next time on the next episode of Remember My Name.
Family members and activists are pushing for more help in the search for a missing South Carolina mother of two. Alexis Ware was last seen 3 weeks ago on January 30th in Anderson County. Her red Honda car was later found on a rural property in McCormick County, but Ware has still not been found. Investigators do not know how the car ended up there. Activists have requested the FBI's help, but the agency released a statement to our sister station in Greenville saying law enforcement has not asked.
On the next episode of Remember My Name, we will be deep diving into the case of Alexis Ware. And she is a missing person right now. She's currently missing, is out of South Carolina, and her case is intriguing. It's just like she disappeared out of thin air. So please come and join me again so we can sit back and we can speak about Alexis Ware and our next child of for a forgotten community that you haven't heard the cases too much about. Again, like and subscribe to the video, and please comment. We'll get into the comments and talk about it. Subscribe, and thank you for watching. Remember My Name.